Okay, so I think those who are late can just join as we're presenting. But I'm going to get started now. All right. So I work for House. My name is Tom Wheeler. I'm a growth strategist, and we've Minut, massive prop tech and monitoring company, launched in the UK and now growing worldwide, a bit like ourselves. We've basically come together for you guys and for landlords and property owners and Airbnb managers to really come together and understand how we can prevent any damages or any disruption to your property when you're hosting. So Buster is on the call. He's probably one of the only ones with a video on. He's the head of enterprise accounts at Minut. I'm Tom Wheeler, or Thomas Wheeler, whatever you want to call me. I'm basically a community lead and partner lead. I'm in charge of bringing all of those prop tech companies and joining us together, House, with a lot of companies around the industry, basically building that community for all of our hosts who use House, but also anyone who is looking into starting an Airbnb or move into the sector. So managing short lets, right, is pretty unpredictable. Many of you on this call might have Airbnbs or properties all dotted around the world and their locations. And we really see last minute booking comes in, potential parties take place, damage to properties. And it is, I wouldn't even lie to you, there is potential for stuff to go wrong. And those who have been doing it for a long time probably have experienced disruptions or something disastrous probably potentially happening in the short-term let industry. But that's not to put you off the industry at all. It's basically just to warn you that stuff can go wrong, but we basically want to show you ways to mitigate against increasing that risk of it going wrong, but also how you react and how that impacts guest bookings and how that can really impact the income that you make during short-term lets. So we at House really do believe that expertise lies not in just avoiding the problems that may arise, but more about how you can handle it and the professionalism and how you do that. As a lot of the time, people now really do expect high quality, almost hotel quality in that sense, on Airbnb, especially when they're paying the same sort of rates in your location. We really do expect the highest service. So just as we get started, many of you currently on the call do have Airbnbs. I recognize a few of you as our hosts, and thank you so much for joining us. But you may be experiencing quite a big uptake in your Airbnb and bookings and the demand of bookings taking place. With this comes a lot of different hassle, different things to bear in mind. Last year alone, we saw different rates in the increasing rates from people who had their properties managed professionally. This isn't a sales pitch, guys. This is just to make you understand exactly what people and why people are demanding this high professional service, and also why they want this reaction and the quick responses when it needs to be. We've seen that typical Airbnb homes compared to House and professionally managed homes increased by about 30% on average as ADRs. So running short-term lets, as many of you know, isn't easy. It's a lot more hassle than being an AST landlord or on the medium-term lets. And with this, the sort of expectation from the guests is really dramatically increasing. We did a little survey with our guests on our guest experience app, and we see that they do expect the top quality service, such as with response times under 10 minutes, to if it needs to call out, someone comes in person. And with this is really driving the whole Airbnb industry and the short-term let industry to meet that normalized level. So with that, it's completely not hassle-free short-term lets, but House really does strive to make it hassle-free for our people who trust us with their properties to really maximize the income, but also reduce the hours it takes to manage it. So this is after our survey. So landlords, these are professional landlords who basically give their properties to us for the whole year on a fixed term contract. They basically rent out the Airbnb for all of the 52 weeks of the year. And they basically were previous long-term landlords and now switched on to short-term let model. And with it, this is what we have been doing data analysis on these sort of properties with our professional landlords. And this is what we really do see in terms of what it takes to operationally manage an Airbnb. From 15 hours of cleaning to 10 hours of meet and greet if you want to do that in person or on the phone, to laundry if you're going to do that yourself, that is, though, the restocking all the toiletries and anything to do you want to insert into the Airbnb, such as your arrival or chocolate on arrival. That's really up to you. But communicating with guests takes 5 hours by itself, and responding to extra requests such as putting a cot up, for example, putting the sofa bed up. These things do really add up, especially when you have a monthly, on average, 18 to 20 bookings a month. And with this, House really does just strive to minimize that. So one of the main points I want to go across is screening the guests, and how our team really does work tirelessly to ensure that property owners maximize their rental income, but also minimize the risk of anything going wrong in their property. And that's why we've organized this call today with Minut. We'll come on and talk about how they're working and want to work with a few of our property and landlord owners to really reduce the risk of partying taking place. So one of the main reasons that people like yourselves might use House is because it reduces that risk of doing it wrong yourself and getting it wrong. If stuff does go wrong, like a party takes place or someone destroys the kitchen area of your house, how you deal with that and how quickly you respond to that really is crucial on short-term lets and regards to insurance. I thought I would just go through a scenario with one of our property owners that recently went through something similar to that from London and early in May. We had a group of young guests book a property. We do a multitude of different sort of tick box exercises to reduce the risk of them being a dodgy guest in that sense or being a high risk to the property. One of the things we do is identity verification with Onfido. It's an ID checker with a third party. We basically ID check their driving license or passport against what they're saying, and they send a little video in about themselves. Airbnb do it themselves as well. You do it on Airbnb, do a similar sort of offering, but we want to make sure we basically double down on that and really are sure that the person we're letting into your properties are verified and checked. We also do advise our property owners to do a minimum of 2-night bookings. This really does mitigate the chance of someone just renting out your apartment for one night, destroying it, and passing it on. And it really doesn't, in our opinion, we don't see any difference in terms of occupancy rates as it impacts that. There's so much demand out there for long weekends or 2 days getaway business trip, for example. There really is that demand there. So when we like they go through a lot of multitude of questions and answers, for example, asking them what they plan on doing at the property. We also look at their reviews as well, very heavily look at their reviews base. Airbnb does flag up any suspicious guests, but we also like to dig a bit deeper. But if that requires us to message them or email them even personally, if they leave those details, we do that. It's not 100% a guarantee though at this point. It's more like another mitigation factor we do. So it was the same scenario here, the partying guests. So what happened is they did slide through our screening process. I'm being quite transparent now. It does happen. We have tons of millions of guests booking in with our previous booked in with House. Over 1.6 million guests have done that. So in that, there is some, we do get it wrong at House. We'll put hands up to that. But we do have all these mitigation factors in there. And it basically is for you guys to have a risk mitigation scenario and feature for you. So what happened in this scenario? The guests arrived at the property. They soon, before you knew it, had a party, a summer party. The neighbours actually informed our 24/7 emergency number, which we do provide to neighbours if our landlord gives us the go ahead to do so. That depends on the preference of our landlords. We had the backup in place. We have the scenario and contingency plan in place to deal with this. We did send on our guest communication app. We did file notifications to them saying we've had complaints, and we did push out to that, trying to basically put them off and shut that down. That did not happen. So we did immediately call the police, and we sent over to the property. And with that, we also sent across one of our personal property managers and account managers straight away the day after to go and take photos of the property after they got kicked out of the property through our guest app, but also on the phone, and the police also were there. So we basically go there, take real life photos, action it, insurance claim. Airbnb are quite picky with regards to insurance claims, so straight away uploaded the same day. This is what happened. You have only 14 days to claim on Airbnb and air cover. So they straight away went into it, and that really did improve the chance of the landlord getting all the money they deserve for these inconsiderate guests. This is a couple of reviews from the house, our house guests. So I have property with regards to what we do. I won't go through each one. You can read it in your own time on our website as well. I just want to say that our landlords are very happy to it. There's a couple of scenarios where we saved people a lot of pain and issues with regards to these sort of services. And basically, we want to deal with it professionally and completely hassle-free from you. So if this does happen and there's no damage at all, it's up to your preferences whether you want to be told about that or not. But in most cases, our account managers do have that relationship with our property owners to really go that this is what's happened to the property. How do you want to move forward? Is there anything that you would like us to change to really minimize the chances of this happening again? I was wondering if anyone had any questions at all with regards to how this has to do and basically what we're trying to do with regards to minimizing partying. We've got some admin people on the call today, so please go ahead in the comments and leave any comments you have.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can, yes.
Hi Tom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, my lighting's really bad in here.
No,
the question I had was, what powers do you guys have to kick guests out of a property? So, for example, let's say we've got guests staying there, they're doing some kind of crazy party. Well, I know in the previous slide you said something about you call the police. So legally, what powers do you have to say, right, let's say you go in, someone's having a party, you send someone around, you call them, they just completely ignore you, they're still raving all night. What can you actually do, like legally? What's the legal position there?
So legal position, if it is your property, and you are the legal right owner of that property, right?
Yeah.
You can go in there, and we always ask Airbnb on this question, so we can send a follow up after this and make sure we have it completely detailed for all of you on this call. But what we would recommend is you can enter that property, but we would advise heavily against it because you don't know the risks that could take place there.
Yeah.
In that sense, you are covered if they don't abide by your rules and they don't listen to you. We would the police would come we would advise you to meet the police at the property, right? Or one of our account managers would meet you there. If needs be, an emergency team would meet you there in the case of you operate. And we would basically almost we would ask them to leave very politely. If they don't leave, I don't know, stand off. We would probably, if the police aren't there, we definitely advise you not to go into the property.
Yeah.
Right? But you are covered up to £1.2 million dollars worth of damage of air cover. So we would wait until they would leave by themselves on their own voluntarily, because we don't want any of our hosts or property owners get into any danger at all. And then with that, but I will follow up with Airbnb. We work very closely with Airbnb and the account managers. We will ask for their legal position on that. I'll send it to you and a question after in the breakdown.
I mean, I guess the police have the power to kick people out, right? Because it's not like a tenant.
Yes.
But tenants have certain rights. You can't just go in there and kick a tenant out. You have to go through a certain process, right?
Yeah, and almost you have to you're contractually.
Yeah. So, but with a guest, I'm assuming it's like a hotel, as in if you have that legal right to kick them out because they're breaking certain rules or something.
Exactly. They must, in the terms and conditions on the Airbnb, if they're breaking those, they would have the right to be outed from Airbnb. But I will double check. I'll get a detailed analysis on that, Ahmed. I hope that never happens to you and your guests.
It hasn't. It's just my knowledge, basically. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just make sure that's 100% data. I'm accurate before any of you start doing this.
Yeah. And what I understand with Airbnb is because it's basically a short let, the guest doesn't have any right of occupation. So it's not like a tenant. So basically, if they're doing something, even if it's things like they book for 2 people and there's actually 4, you have the right to go into the property. So there's nothing like you have to give 24 hours notice or anything like that. They're automatically in breach as soon as they do something, and you have the right to go into the property at any time under those circumstances.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I think you have the right to go in. You definitely have the right to go into your property. It's just from a risk point of view.
Obviously, obviously, there's a safety aspect, but
yeah. But thank you, Angela. That's very interesting. Hannah, I see you have a question as well.
Yeah. So if we book up with Houst, does it mean that you will deal with all these kind of interactions with the tenants, or is it still the landlord who has to deal with it?
We deal with that on majority of the occasions. It depends on the preferences. So Ahmed is one of our hosts of House. He would set a preference on his dashboard of how much he wants to be involved in the process of managing it. Whether I don't know whether something goes damaged, does he get told about that, or anything goes wrong? It's up to the preference of the landlord how much they want to be involved. Depending on that, our team has different levels of management service, so it's completely full or not. So Hannah, so it's up to you in regards to what your preferences are. So if, for example, if the emergency was taking place and you put, I want to be told straight away, our team would have our guest team and our account management team will reach out to you as a property owner. And it's up to you if you want to come to the property with us or what.
Okay, so if I'm away, if I'm abroad myself, I can actually delegate the whole job to you. Is that correct?
Correct. It's completely hands off, depending on which package you go with us.
Okay. And then that is costed accordingly.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. I'm gonna move on quickly and introduce Buster, who works at Minut. I think you guys probably came along to here for a minute as well on the leading prop tech and monitoring systems. How, as your landlord, if you're a normal AST landlord, how you can use them, or you're on Airbnb short-term lets, you can still use them. It's for anyone with a property, basically. I'll come along and introduce you to Buster in a second. After that little conversation, Hannah, we are offering like a very limited time offer to the people on the call today. With regards to if you are or currently on Airbnb or want to get into Airbnb, we're very happy to offer you this subscription and discount if you want to go ahead. The QR code on the screen, I'll send it to you after. We're sending in a follow-up email. We are waiving any onboarding fees to get you going as quick as possible and getting the most out of this summer before it goes into winter. It's worth about £150, and we want to make sure that you we're waiving it. Thank you so much for taking your time out today, and with that, we want to reward you guys for joining us. So we'll move on. So to Buster now, finally, there we go. So this is Buster. I'll let him take over and I'll mute myself. Yeah, enough of my voice.
Yeah, no worries, Tom. It was really good to hear about what you're doing, and we're super excited to be working with you guys. Ahmed, to also jump in on your question before, these things can sound a bit scary. I have a lot of experience, been with Minut for 5 years, and we exclusively do this type of monitoring. We even have, in some countries, in some regions, we have a service that you can add on to Minut, where we actually send someone out. It's more of a security sort of guard than the police. But what I can say is it's very rare. In across like 5 years I've done this, it's very rare to have these sort of exceptional instances where there's danger and stuff like that. I mean, of course, what Tom said, always, take the safe course and don't go in somewhere where you feel unsafe. But with Minut and Houst working together, I'm going to tell you about like how we do that, but we try to mitigate those things from happening in the first place. But it was a really good question, and Tom, if you move on to the next slide, I can start telling you a little bit about what we do here at Minut and together with Houst. So what we are in now is peak season, summer. I mean, all of you know that occupancy rates go up, and this also means that we have an increased number of issues. It can be neighbor complaints, it can be parties, and they can be because of multiple different reasons. So attracting the wrong type of people, the wrong type of guests, people that want to come to your property and to have a party. We have increased risks around property damage and neighbor complaints. And of course, we want to keep all of these at a minimum, and we want to prevent them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do that now in the next slide. So Tom has already brought up some really good points on how to mitigate these risks. And if you use Houst, it's one of the best ways to do that, because they'll do a lot of this for you. Tom spoke about the guest screening. I highly recommend that to anyone who's renting out. And also making the house rules very clear. And I think in that is what Ahmed and Hannah, what you were talking about, that the guests will be in breach of these rules if they do have excessive noise levels or throw a party. And that's the basis to then getting them out or getting the situation resolved. And then why I'm here today is to talk about the home monitoring solution, which we've been working very closely with the property managers and landlords of all sizes, from people with just one flat or one apartment or one house to property managers that manage hundreds and even thousands of properties. So on the next slide, we can see how this works. Minut is a sensor that you put up in the property or in the apartment. And basically what it will do is it will give you insights into what's going on during the guest stay, but without invading on the privacy of the guests. So privacy is obviously front and center. We get a lot of questions about that. and we don't record or send any data, or we don't listen to conversations or things like that. And that's why Minut has become the number one noise monitoring sensor in the market, because we put a lot of time and effort into that very soft guest experience focused approach. So we can tell if a guest is having a party by looking at the decibel levels, the noise levels in the property. We have motion detection in the sensor itself. So if you look at the middle screen there on the slide, you can see what that it looks like. It's telling you when people come and go, and it's doing that off of just body heat. It's an infrared sensor that's doing that, so it's not a camera or anything. And then we can also measure temperature levels, and you can set thresholds for that. So you can tell if the AC has been left on, or in the wintertime, if the heating system has been turned up to max and the guest maybe has left. So then we can have some automations for that. So we can automatically turn the AC off or the heating down, and then saving you money, and also increasing guest comfort as well. Yeah, we can move to the next slide. Exactly. So here's an overview. The sensor is on the left-hand side there on the picture, and it goes in the ceiling, just like it's sitting right now. So it's very much out of the way. Noise monitoring is sort of the main reason people come to us in the first place. But then we also have these other sensors in the same device that will give you additional insight into what's going on. And one of those things is occupancy monitoring. So it's a really good indication that, you know, people are starting to gather. It's not a people counter. It won't tell you the exact number of people in the property, but it's counting Bluetooth devices, so like phones and computers. And it will be an early indication that that you have more people in the property than on the booking, for example. So that's a really good way to prevent parties from happening in the first place. The motion detection we already talked about. The temperature we touched upon as well. And that's a really powerful way to save money as well, to make sure that the guest isn't blasting the AC, for example. The tampering on the tamper detection on the device will notify you if anyone tries to take it down. As I said, it sits in the ceiling. It's very much out of the way. We've designed it so it blends in naturally. It doesn't take up any space or attention. And then it can be installed both outdoor and indoor. So if you have an outdoor area, because you can put it there, that would be the case if you're afraid that the neighbors have complained before. Maybe they're sensitive to noise in the outdoor area, and then you can have the sensor placed there as well. So it works both indoor and out. And then our latest feature, which is cigarette detection, or cigarette smoke detection, which is a really exciting one, where we've just launched earlier this spring. And we use machine learning and an algorithm to detect cigarette smoke. So we're not looking at things like cooking and other sub, like hairsprays or things like that could trigger it. But we're looking at specifically at cigarette smoke and letting people know if there's someone smoking inside the property. Because that doesn't even require a party. Oftentimes they're linked, but you could have someone smoking and causing a lot of problems if they're just on their own as well. So that's a really exciting one. We can move on to the next slide. So basically what we have here is the three different components of Minut. You have the mobile app for notifications and monitoring on the go. You have the computer, the web app, where you can go in and you can get a full overview of your portfolio, or if you just have one home, you can go in there and change settings and see everything you need at a glance. And then the sensor itself is super easy to install. Anyone in this call here could do it within 5 minutes. I guarantee it. It's a 5-step process. You do it through the phone, and it's very easy. You don't need any power tools or anything either. Yeah, Tom, I think we can move on to the next slide here. So I just thought I'd show you what a noise graph could look like, and give you an example of when it would trigger. So what you're seeing here is a graph of a decibel level in a property. And it's hovering around 60 decibels, which is a pretty normal, conversation type of decibel level. So if you have two people having dinner, it would probably be around there. And then you see this spike that goes over the red line, and the red line is your threshold. That's what you've set your limit to. And you don't want noise above this line. But this spike here is very short. It could be a door slamming, or it could be just a very temporary loud noise. So we're not going to trigger for that. We're going to ignore that spike. And as you see, the noise goes directly down to 60 again. But then what happens is it starts escalating, and it goes above the red line, and then it stays above the red line. And that's what we don't want to see, because that indicates that either the dinner party has gone to the next level, or that more people have joined. So that's when we will notify you via the mobile app or push notifications. When we do that, you can have an automatic text message that goes to the guest, or you can contact the guest yourself and tell them, remind them of the house rules, and very kindly ask them to quiet down. And as you can see in this example, that's exactly what happened. The noise went back down, and it leveled out around 70, just below 70 decibels. And we've done a lot of studies on this. We've worked with companies like Airbnb, and we've done studies in different cities. And we found that, as you see here, 83% of noise issues are solved within 20 minutes or less. So that's why I said, before, that it's very rare that we get to the point where you have to send the police or have to go over, because such a big part of these noise issues and issues overall are solved by just letting the guests know. And then 9 times out of 10, they're not bad actors. They just weren't aware that they were making so much noise. We can move to the final slide here. And this is sort of just one of our property managers. They have a couple of 100 properties with Minut in. And I think one of the powerful things that we can do together with a company like Houst is that we can automate text messages, and we can work together in order to make the monitoring easier for you. So one of our favorite features is the automated guest messaging. So basically, when that noise level goes over that line, there will be an automated message, meaning that you don't even have to do anything. The guest will receive a message that you've written, that you've composed. You can change that. You can edit that in our system, and then that text message will be sent out to the guest. So and that mitigates that solves almost all the problems. And then if that doesn't work, we can call the guest, and then if that doesn't work, we can send someone. But so combining Houst and a very hands-on sort of technical solution like Minut, then I'd say, Tom said before, we can't guarantee that 100% that things won't happen. But if you have both of these parts of the puzzle, it's very, very unlikely that you'll find yourself in any major issues or any bigger problems. And if it does happen, together with what Tom said before, we also have all of the historical data for everything that's gone on in the property, right? So you can go back and you can see exactly when the noise levels were at what level, how many people were in there, roughly with the occupancy monitoring. And that can also support any claims or difficulties that you might have. So we have had some customers that use the data from Minut to support them. And there was, I think, even a court case where Minut data was used. So all in all, combine these two things: prevention, guest screening, and then a sensor like Minut, and you're pretty well protected. So with that, if there are any questions about Minut or Houst, if you've thought about anything for Tom as well, just shoot. Olivia, you have a question here. I'm just going to read it real quick, and then I'll reply.
Thank you.
Okay, so you mean that if you get a complaint from a neighbor, regardless of where the noise is coming from, you might get suspended?
Yes, this has happened to us a couple of times, which may be an extenuating circumstance just with a neighbor who, quite frankly, doesn't like short-term rentals. But I'm wondering, since our Minut device is connected to Airbnb and Vrbo, this isn't an issue with Vrbo, just Airbnb. Is there something, I didn't know if you guys are aware of this, or if there's something going forward, a plan so that it's more automated Airbnb can recognize, oh, there is a Minut device, there was no noise recorded, no events recorded, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I see what you're saying. So instead of having this time when you're suspended for the investigation, you just automatically see there is a minute. You can get the data directly sent to them, and then you don't even have to have this suspension or this time where you're not on the platform. Is that your point here?
Precisely. Thank you.
It's a really good question. So obviously there's not an automated process in place for that, but it's an excellent idea. I know that our collaboration with Airbnb is that you can have the text messages sent in the Airbnb app. So if there's a noise issue, you can have the guest message sent directly in the Airbnb app. And we're continuously working with Airbnb to make our relationship stronger and to make it work better. And this is a great suggestion. So I'll take this one back, and hopefully we can do something around this, because it's a really great idea. So even if you do have a noise monitoring sensor, you still don't want to have that time when it's offline for the investigation. So thank you, Olivia, for that question. I'll bring it back to the product team and the team that's working directly with Airbnb.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and then Emin, we have a question. How do you enforce the rules for unreasonable guests and get them out of the property? Is that Houst's responsibility? And what is the monthly price over the 2-month freemium? Tom, I think that first part is for you.
Yeah, of course. And the second part, I'll give it to you. The House responsibility on that, it's not on, well, house managers completely fully manages your property, right? So if your house is in a risk state or is it under risk, we need to act quickly and responsibly. But we're not legally bound to responsibly kick them out. However, we would not want that to look badly on our property owners and our reviews as a manager. So we will do everything it takes to negotiate with the guests to leave or to force them out in that sense. We've had, we've had no touch wood over all of the bookings we've had and over the 1.5 million night stays. We've never had to do anything in that sense to kick a guest out for overstaying or for partying, other than that one with the police, but in person. We haven't actually have to do that on many occasions at all. But on that, yeah, the rules and we as with Buster and I we discussed, we have so many different mitigation sort of stages in place, from text messages calling them to going in person to the police being called. But there's no need for physical enforcement to get them out, or if there is that to take place, House will not take part in that. That we're going to the police to do. And Buster, with your side of the question, what is the monthly price over the 2 months freemium?
Yeah, I'll post our pricing page in the comments here as well, so you can dig deeper into what the different plans are. But basically, in pounds, it's 10 pounds per month or 15 pounds per month, depending on what plan you go with. So if you want to look at the pricing in detail, click the link that I sent there. And if you have more than 20 properties, or I think even more than 10 properties under management, then you can also get in touch with me directly. I'm happy to help you if you have a bigger portfolio. And then Phil has a question about 3 Airbnbs in the same area and monitoring noise in common areas. Yes, that absolutely works. I'm not sure if there's a specific question around those areas, but the question about notifications being sent to multiple different people is absolutely possible. So in the system, you can add, you can add someone else who also will receive notifications. You can divide it in different areas as well. So if there's one person monitoring one specific Airbnb, they can get notifications related to that Airbnb, and if there's someone else monitoring another one, they'll only get notifications for that one. So all of that structure is in the outdoor areas. So Phil, do you mean to differentiate between an outdoor area? It's the same sensor and it's the same system, so everything will go through, and you will name the outdoor sensor. For example, you'll name it patio, and then you'll know if there's a noise that triggers that one, then you'll know it's that one that has triggered. And if it says living room, then it will be the one inside. So yeah, exactly, outdoor as well.
But I think Ahmed's the question.
Yeah.
Ahmed, do you want to go ahead if you're still unable to mute yourself? Okay, yep. Perfect.
It's just going back to a comment that a previous person said about they got suspended on Airbnb because somebody was having a party in the house. I don't, it's probably more for you, Tom. I don't understand. How can Airbnb ban you if a guest is the problem?
Problem. So, Buster, I don't know if Minute have dealt with this before. We've never had this scenario, I read, at House. As to, 'cause obviously, Airbnb does like to favour the guests.
No, no.
You know that better than anyone else, really. That's favour the guests on over the host. But we've never had that scenario where if there's a party going on, they've been suspended in that sense.
Mm.
So I can't really comment on this in that sense. It's not my area of expertise. I don't know, Buster, have you ever heard, because you work closely with Airbnb as well, has this ever happened?
What happens a lot is that you get a complaint from a neighbor. So the neighbor might complain to Airbnb and say there's noise coming from the property.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's because the neighbor doesn't like that this property is rented out.
Yeah.
And in all of these cases, and I say 99% of them, it isn't the guest in that property that is making the noise. It's just the neighbor is trying to get rid of the Airbnb. So one of the things that we help our clients with is not, reducing complaints from neighbors, but also false complaints, because false complaints is a huge issue. And I mean, there are other ways to get around. I mean, Airbnb is working on their policies and all the time to improve relationships with communities and with neighbors. And ultimately, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to make create a society or a community where these rentals can be side by side with regular people that are not renting out. But yeah, it does create friction sometimes. And what we do then is we give them the noise graph, and we say that we can prove basically that the noise didn't come from this property. And that's, I think, what Olivia was talking about before, that during this time when they're looking at this, you're suspended because they're investigating whether the noise actually did come from a party in your property. But we want to speed that up, of course, and say, well, it wasn't coming from your property because we can prove it because the noise levels weren't above the threshold. And here's that proof.
Just a quick question for you, Buster, on the device itself. Can you put this device outside, like in a garden? I asked
you can.
Many years ago, probably about 4 or 5. I mean, I've been hosting for about, I don't know, 5, 6 years now. I had a rave in the garden, basically.
Yeah.
So can this device be put, say, in an outside space so it can record noises outside in a backyard, in your garden, or something?
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you contacted us about that 5 years ago, you might have been one of the first people to initiate the product development of our latest sensor, which is an outdoor sensor. So yes, it does work. It's completely weatherproof. It also has something called audio ID. So it will ignore wind noises, lawnmowers, and things like that. And it will hone in on noises that are relevant, like a party or people yelling, shouting, laughing, and music. And it works. It's the same sensor that you put indoor and outdoor. So you don't even have to worry about buying, 2 different sensors. You might want to have one indoors and outdoors, but hardware wise, it's the same hardware that goes in both places.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just on that as well, I've got a question I'm asking for our properties. So obviously the preference level and the threshold, that can change at different times of the day. So for example, we have some properties with big gardens, they have a barbecue set up, they have all of that. If a host is happy for that party, but a big gathering to take place for a certain period of the day, it makes that clear in the house guest book, for example. Can you change that threshold throughout the time of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can have a higher tolerance during the daytime and a lower tolerance for noise during the evening. So let's say that you have quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning, then you would set you would set a lower threshold for that, and you would essentially be notified earlier than if there was any noise. So yes, there's that then dynamic, and you can also choose how long you want the noise to go on for before getting notified. So let's say you want to get notified within 5 minutes from the noise started, you can do that. If you want to be a little bit more tolerant, you maybe give it 10 minutes before you get the first notification. So all of this is customizable depending on how sensitive neighbors are, or how tolerant you want to be to the noise issues at hand.
Thank you. I think Paul's got another question in the comments for you, Buster, as well.
Yeah, about the second sensor. Yeah, so hardware wise, it's the same hardware. It's the same sensor, whether you're going to put it outdoors or indoors. It's waterproof, but it works in both places. If you do have two areas, so let's say you have a living room and you have a outdoor area, you might want to put one in the living room and one in the outdoor area, but it's the same technology. It's the same sensor. You'll just get two boxes. You'll put one inside, one outside.
Perfect. Has anyone got more questions at all? Oh, there's Nina's just popped up now. So I think this is for you. And wow.
Oh yeah, no, I think it was just Nina was just commenting. Yeah, it is hard to prove, but with the noise graphs, it's very difficult to get away. You definitely will see if there has been noise made. So yeah, it does help a lot. The indoor sensor where we recommend putting it is where there is activity, where a social area. So a living room is a great place, maybe a dining room or a kitchen, somewhere where people would start to gather. If you have multiple floors, then maybe you have to have one sensor on each floor. It depends on how well the noise sound carries in your property. So it's a little bit case to case, but if you have any questions, send them to hello@minut.com. We can give specific recommendations based on your specific situation. And Robert, it is Wi-Fi, through Wi-Fi. So you could turn the Wi-Fi off, but Minut would immediately sense that it can't connect to the sensor, and it would tell you. So it would, if you lost connection with your sensor, you would get a notification. And that could be good as well, because if the Wi-Fi goes down, even if the guest isn't, even if the guest doesn't have malicious intent, if the Wi-Fi goes down, that's a problem for them. And you will know because Minut will tell you that it's gone offline.
So I see Paul's just asked a bit about Houst and the special conditions around Houst customers compared to your normal pricing. So basically, when you come on as a customer of Houst and manage, we have a dynamic algorithm which is different to Airbnb's in terms of it's all tailored towards maximizing nightly rates rather than occupancy rates, unlike Airbnb's is. So with that, when working with our interior design firm, when you come on board, we advise you on what we would do to property to maximize ADR. And with that, we would rather have a high ADR and a minimal occupancy, around 80%, rather than 100% occupancy and low ADRs, less work but more income. And with that, we have about 30% on average from a fully professionally managed to doing it yourself. This is the data from last year. The data will probably change this year, but we are following from all our reports and data analytics. We're looking at a very similar trend this year. So it varies in city to city and also on events taking place each year and year. But for a professionally managed firm, we see about 30% on average more income made. And Nina's got a question again. Does the listing have to disclose are they using the device? Would it put guests off potentially? And Buster's going for you.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Nina. And I think Airbnb does require you to put it on the listing if you have any type of technology that is picking up noise, even if it's not recording. It depends then if you list on Airbnb or not, and if you do it through direct bookings, maybe you can choose how to do it. My recommendation would be to do it, and that's because as Tom was talking about before, you want to prevent it in the first place, and you have these guests that are going around and looking at properties to book and maybe have a stag do or throw a party over a weekend, and if they see that there is a noise monitoring device in the house, they won't book it. So you're gonna already remove some of the risk right there. And the other part of that is, we have a lot of information and material to provide to you about, that's guest facing. So, we can help you phrase this and talk to the guests and tell them what this is, that it's 100% privacy safe and that's not recording anything. Essentially, it's only if you break the rules that it's going to be, you're even going to know about it. If you don't break the rules, it's a passive thing that's, you're not even going to notice it. So it's really easy to do that. And I think most guests appreciate transparency as well. And that's what we want to do. We want to build trust, and don't want to monitor people. We want to have this for the bad actors. And Minut has a few other things as well. that can help the guest. Like we can, when the guest arrives, we can send Wi-Fi information, how they get online on the Wi-Fi, welcome messages as well, since we know when they arrive. And it's not supposed to be like some big brother thing. For good guests, it's just a safety measure.
And then, Buster, on that, on Airbnb, when you build your listing out, is there a noise monitoring icon on the profile? I don't know if from the top of my head there is. I was just wondering.
I think there is. I'm not sure.
Okay. I don't know.
I'll have to get back to you. I have to get back to you on that one.
No, we probably should both know that, but I don't know on the amenities list. They're always updating it, so I don't know whether recently they've updated it, whether it needs to be inserted on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, but I recommend it. We recommend it to everyone, and everyone who does it. Everyone's a little bit on the fence first with it being like, will it be intrusive? But you know, we have these devices in tens of thousands of properties across the world, and you know, Minut wouldn't be successful as we are if this was a problem. So I think it is something we just need to talk about. We need to you know, tell the guests what's going on and how we're doing it. And we even have a guest facing page on our website, which is, you know, directly, if the guest has any questions, they can look at that as well. And I think that's the way it works best, if it's transparent and clear.
We agree. Please go ahead and ask any more questions, guys. Buster and I have a couple of minutes to stay online. And this is all going to be sent back to you guys via email, a recording, along with the promotional deals, if you are interested at all moving forward with Minut or Houst. At Houst, we're happy to take any free consultations. If you want to look into moving from traditional landlord and long-term lets into short-term lets, we're happy to talk on anything. And I think Minut will be the same with regards to their technology. I'll leave a couple more minutes, and then please feel free to leave now for the event if you don't have any more questions, but stay around if you have.
Thank you, Stephen. It was great that you joined, and thanks everyone else. And feel free to get in touch if you have any other questions. I don't know, Tom, if they'll get our emails or how that works, but you'll get the recording, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Brilliant.
Afterwards as well.
Ahmed, is that you with more questions, or you?
No, it's fine. The only thing I was going to ask you was, I mean, at the moment, there's this over-reliance on Airbnb in terms of getting traffic.
Yeah.
Have you seen any shifts in terms of other platforms taking up some of this market share?
Yeah, we have.
It's almost like, I'd say more than 95%.
So yeah, we've
Airbnb are quite draconian, and you know, they're very they can sort of come down on the host quite heavily with suspensions and bans and things for very little reason sometimes.
Yeah, I know. Airbnb do have, especially in London, Ahmed, where your properties are, that they do have a massive monopoly on that market.
Yeah.
However, we are seeing now a lot of people are switching to Booking.com. I think Booking.com got a massive marketing campaign this year. And we are seeing in our house, like 6,000 properties worldwide, our house data is showing Booking.com is now eating to that market share, followed by Vrbo and Expedia. Those are the main booking platforms. Airbnb does have that stronghold. Currently, that is where people are using it. I don't know, they're French, they've locked in their customers and their guests. I think that's probably why Minut reached out to Airbnb and partnered with them back in the day. But now, yeah, we are seeing a shift. Not dramatic though, and especially UK, it's still Airbnb heavily, but Booking.com is coming. We are seeing trends as well. Of course, our data, main city locations, like big cities, is Airbnb for weekend getaways, but for rural locations, Booking.com is the one that people go to.
Thanks.
All right, Ahmed. Have a lovely evening. Stephen, how are you? Would you like to answer?
Hi guys. Thank you again for the talk. It's great. A few questions. One just about me. I'm probably going to be looking to rent my place out from the beginning of next month.
Okay.
Obviously, I've left it quite late. How soon would I like, or how much bookings would I likely to get in August onwards? Is it likely to be 25, 30, 50% full, or?
So this depends, obviously, seasonality and locations, right? I don't know where your property is.
Brighton.
Brighton. Okay, so Brighton does have a very big seasonality. We have a lot of bookings coming from Brighton with our properties. It depends on how quickly we get your listing live, right? So if you've got a sales call today, it can take within 5 days, you can fast track someone will come to your house, onboard your property, get it all details in, correct?
Brilliant.
Then professional photography will come over, do that all, get that list on Airbnb and across all the platforms you want to be featured on. And then from there, it's literally market analysis onto the pricing. We normally decrease the price by 15% for the first couple of bookings. As soon as you get your first review, Airbnbs are very big. Obviously, their algorithm bases on reviews to pump you up in terms of booking search.
Right.
We get it going and hopefully maximize those reviews. And then from there, we'll drive bookings. I would, Stephen, I'd love to get you an email after with some market report, or get you on a call with someone and to discuss Brighton with you, because it might be seasonal, but it's a lot of bookings in all the way to the end of September. So if it is vacant and there's a void period, it's worthwhile doing and testing that.
Cool. Okay. The second one was I just tried scanning the QR code you've got up at the moment for the free onboarding and so on.
Yes.
It's redirected to the normal homepage. I don't know whether I've.
That will track you through with UTMs all the way through.
Oh, okay. It's a tracker link. Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Stephen, now I've got your email. We can move things forward like that. And anyone on this call, please feel free we can reach out to you if you want to, or you reach out to our team. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a lovely evening. I actually have a hard stop now. I've got a meeting coming up. So thank you so much, everyone. And Buster, thank you for attending as well. And I appreciate you all. And we will send the recording to you after this. And hopefully some of you will join Minut and some of you join Houst and use our companies to maximize your properties. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.